Greetings all, and welcome back to a new episode. I know many of you use these videos to help you sleep, so before we begin, I thought it would be fun for everyone to say hello and leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your engagement really makes this channel special. And hey, if you enjoy getting your nightly dose of thrills and chills with us, why not hit that subscribe button below? It's the best way to never miss out on the latest terrifying tales. So kick back, relax, and let's get started. The late afternoon sun cast long, skeletal shadows through the dense canopy as we set up camp. Me, the ever-optimistic leader, Sarah, the voice of reason, and Liam, the amateur photographer with a morbid fascination with the macabre, had ventured deep into Redwood National Park, lured by the promise of a secluded campsite rumored to be untouched by civilization. The silence was unnerving, a suffocating stillness broken only by the occasional snap of a twig under unseen weight. The towering redwoods, majestic from afar, now loomed oppressively, their ancient bark etched with strange symbols that sent shivers down my spine. Dismissing it as pareidolia, a trick of the light, we pitched our tent in a small clearing dominated by a colossal, gnarled redwood unlike any I'd seen before. Its bark, unlike the smooth reddish-brown of its brethren, was an unsettling black, its branches reaching out like skeletal claws. Nightfall painted the sky in shades of inky black, and the oppressive silence deepened. A strange smell, metallic and acrid, filled the air, making my throat constrict. Sleep came in stolen moments, haunted by dreams of whispering shadows and gnarled branches reaching for me. Dawn brought little relief. The metallic tang lingered, and a sense of dread clung to me like a second skin. Just as we were about to break camp, Liam stumbled upon a disturbing sight. A small clearing littered with bleached animal bones, arranged in a grotesque parody of a human figure. The sight sent a jolt of terror through me, a primal fear that urged us to turn back. Ignoring the warning signs, we continued deeper into the woods, the black redwood always visible through the trees, a macabre beacon. The air crackled with a static electricity that made our hair stand on end. Then, Sarah, ever the pragmatist, stumbled, a misstep on a hidden route. Her scream, cut short by a sickening crack, echoed through the silent woods. Panic seized me. I rushed to her side, but it was too late. Her ankle was twisted at a grotesque angle, her face contorted in pain. Liam, surprisingly calm, set about improvising a splint. With nightfall approaching and Sarah in no condition to walk, we were forced to make camp right there, beneath the oppressive shadow of the black redwood. As darkness descended, the whispers began. Disembodied voices, filled with malice and a chilling hunger, slithered through the trees, promising oblivion. Terror choked me. These weren't whispers, they were entities, tendrils of darkness seeking entry. We huddled together in the tent, the thin nylon wall a flimsy barrier against the encroaching horror. Suddenly, the tent ripped open. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and emaciated. Its skin stretched taut over its skeletal frame. Luminous yellow eyes, like malevolent embers, glowed from beneath a tattered hood. It spoke in a voice that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere, a voice filled with malice and hunger. Lost souls, it rasped. The offering has been made. Now, you join the collection. Just as it lunged for Sarah, the black redwood creaked ominously. A thick, viscous sap began to ooze from its bark, coating the creature in a sticky, malodorous substance. It shrieked in a sound that curdled my blood, thrashing and clawing at the sticky black prison that encased it. Moments later, it was still, a grotesque statue trapped in the sap. We stared at the horrifying tableau, too stunned to react. Then, a deep, guttural growl echoed through the woods. From the darkness emerged a colossal creature, its form a grotesque amalgamation of bear and man. Its eyes, filled with a feral rage, locked onto us. Panic surged through me. Grabbing Sarah's arm, I dragged her towards the barely visible trail, Liam close behind. The monstrous creature lumbered after us, its enraged roars echoing through the silent woods. We stumbled through the dense undergrowth, the black redwood always a chilling landmark. Finally, exhausted and battered, we burst out of the tree lean, collapsing onto the familiar gravel of the park entrance. Looking back, the forest seemed to recede, the black redwood nowhere to be seen. Rescued and treated for our injuries, we never spoke of the entity trapped in the sap or the monstrous guardian. But the nightmares remained, a chilling reminder of the horror we barely escaped. Years later, a package arrived on my doorstep. Inside, a single, perfect redwood burl, its surface smooth and unblemished. But as I held it up to the light, a faint, unsettling shimmer seemed to emanate from within. A reminder that some secrets are best left buried, and some shadows hold a darkness that lingers long after the sun rises. The redwood burl sits on my mantelpiece, a constant vigil against the whispers that might, one day, return, stronger and more determined to claim their offering. The news reported Sarah's disappearance as a tragic hiking accident, a story that did little to soothe my frayed nerves. The knowledge that she was still out there, trapped in some grotesque tableau beneath the black redwood, gnawed at me. Driven by a desperate need for closure, I convinced Liam to return to the park with me. But the Redwood National Park we knew was gone. The entrance was blocked off, a sign citing environmental concerns posted haphazardly. Undeterred, we followed the barely visible trail, the eerie silence amplifying the thumping of my heart. The black redwood should have been visible by now, but the forest remained dense, an unfamiliar tangle of trees. Frustration and despair threatened to consume me, but then Liam pointed. Half buried beneath a fallen log, a single, misshapen redwood burl glinted in the weak sunlight, identical to the one on my mantelpiece, its surface marred by a network of dark cracks. As I knelt to examine it, a chilling realization struck me. The burl on my mantelpiece was missing those cracks. A wave of nausea washed over me. The burl I held was a replica, meticulously crafted to torment me. The entity, trapped in the sap, still held a connection to the outside world, and it was using that connection to taunt me. Anger, hot and potent, surged through me. "You won't win," I roared, my voice echoing through the silent woods. "We exposed you. You're trapped." A low, pulsating hum filled the air, emanating from the cracked burl. It wasn't a sound of defeat, but of anticipation. The darkness within the black redwood wasn't dormant. It was evolving, preparing for the day it would break free and claim its overdue offering. We left the forest that day, defeated but not broken. The entity may still be trapped, but its reach seemed to have extended. The burl on my mantelpiece now pulsed with a faint, malevolent light, a constant reminder that the battle lines have been drawn. We may have escaped the Redwood National Park, but the park, in a way, has escaped with us. And the whispers, once confined to the woods, now linger on the edge of my sleep, a chilling promise of what's to come. The fight for survival has only just begun. The wind howled like a banshee through the skeletal pines, whipping the thin nylon walls of my tent into a frenzy. A solitary camper, I'd craved solitude, but the oppressive silence of the Blackwood forest had taken a sinister turn after dark. Earlier, the setting sun had cast grotesque shadows from the gnarled trees, and now, every rustle in the undergrowth sent shivers down my spine. I'd chosen this remote site for its seclusion, a hidden gem nestled deep within a national park known for its rugged beauty and lack of phone reception. Now, the lack of signal felt suffocating, cutting me off from the outside world and amplifying my fear. Sleep came in fits and starts, punctuated by unsettling dreams of whispering voices and glowing eyes peering through the darkness. Dawn brought little relief. The wind had died down, leaving an unnerving stillness in its wake. Emerging from my tent, I was greeted by a sight that sent a jolt of terror through me. Hanging from a low branch, a crow lay lifeless, its eyes gouged out and its feathers scattered around it like morbid confetti. Ignoring the gnawing unease in my gut, I packed up camp with trembling hands. The walk back to the trailhead should have taken no more than an hour, but as the sun climbed higher, casting long, distorted shadows, the familiar path seemed to vanish. Panic clawed at me. Had I been walking in circles all morning? Desperation fueling my steps, I stumbled through the dense undergrowth, the towering pines seeming to close in on me. Then, I saw it. A weathered sign half hidden by overgrown bushes. Blackwood Creek Campground, it read. An arrow pointing deeper into the woods. Relief washed over me. A landmark, a sign of civilization. Following the arrow, I emerged into a clearing dominated by a dilapidated wooden cabin. Smoke curled from its chimney, promising warmth and a sense of safety. A wizened old woman answered my knock, her eyes as dark and fathomless as the surrounding forest. She introduced herself as Agnes, a hermit who had lived in the woods for decades. Over a cup of steaming tea, I recounted my ordeal, my voice laced with trepidation. Agnes listened patiently, her lips pressed into a thin line. Finally, she spoke in a raspy voice. "The Blackwood Forest holds secrets, young one. Secrets best left undisturbed." She explained the legend of the Wendigo, a malevolent spirit that stalked the woods, preying on the lost and the lonely. Fear turned to a chilling certainty. The whispers in my dreams, the missing trail, the dead crow. It all pointed to the Wendigo. But Agnes offered a sliver of hope. A ritual, she said, could sever the Wendigo's hold on the forest, but it required a sacrifice. A personal belonging, imbued with strong emotions. Desperate to escape this nightmare, I offered my grandfather's pocket watch, a treasured heirloom. Agnes led me to a hidden cave, its entrance pulsating with an eerie green glow. Inside, a grotesque idol, its maw dripping with an acrid liquid, stood on a pedestal. Following Agnes' instructions, I placed the watch on the pedestal and began the ritual. The air crackled with unseen energy, and the idol pulsed an infernal green. Then, a low growl echoed through the caverns, the sound of pure malice. Before me, a monstrous figure materialized from the shadows, its emaciated body draped in tattered skins, its eyes glowing like embers. Panic threatened to consume me, but the image of my grandfather, his kind smile and booming laughter, fueled my resolve. I shouted the final words of the ritual, and the watch, engulfed in a blinding white light, shattered. The cave shook violently, and the Wendigo shrieked as it was banished back into the darkness. Agnes helped me out of the collapsing cave, a weary smile etched on her face. Emerging into the sunlight, I saw the Blackwood Forest for the first time. The oppressive darkness lifted, replaced by a vibrant green. Leaving Agnes behind, I walked back to the familiar trail, a survivor of the Wendigo's curse. Back in civilization, the horrors of the Blackwood Forest seemed like a fever dream, but the nightmares lingered, whispers of the Wendigo echoing in my sleep. And on my bedside table, the broken shards of my grandfather's watch served as a chilling reminder of the price of solitude and the secrets that lurk within the shadows of the wild. The Blackwood Forest may be silent now, but somewhere deep within its heart, a malevolent entity waits, biding its time for the next foolhardy soul to wander into its domain. The flickering campfire cast grotesque shadows that danced across the weathered faces of my friends, Mark and Sarah. We were seasoned backpackers, relishing the solitude of a remote trail in the Teton Range. Yet, an unsettling silence hung heavy in the air. No chirping crickets, no hooting owls, just a suffocating quiet that pressed down on us like a physical weight. Mark, the ever-optimistic jokester, dismissed it as mountain silence. Sarah, the pragmatic one, worried about a potential storm brewing in the distance. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, unseen eyes boring into us from the dense, encroaching darkness beyond the firelight. Nightfall brought no comfort. The oppressive silence remained, broken only by the unsettling snap of twigs under unseen weight and the distant, mournful howl of a coyote. Sleep came in stolen moments, haunted by dreams of gnarled branches reaching for me and whispers that slithered through the trees, promising oblivion. Dawn painted the sky with streaks of orange and purple, but offered little relief. An unsettling metallic tang hung heavy in the air. Exploring the surrounding woods, we stumbled on a sight that sent chills down our spines. A clearing dominated by a colossal, ancient pine. Carved into its bark, like a grotesque mural, were symbols that seemed to writhe under our gaze. A primal fear urged me to turn back, but a morbid curiosity propelled me forward. As I knelt to examine the symbols, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. Whipping around, I saw Sarah pinned to the ground, a swarm of monstrous insects clinging to her exposed skin. Their bodies, a grotesque amalgamation of beetle and spider, gnashed their mandibles and emitted a high-pitched whine that made my teeth ache. Panic surged through me. Mark, ever resourceful, grabbed a burning branch and swung it wildly, driving back the swarm momentarily. We scrambled to Sarah's side, her face contorted in pain, her skin already marred by angry red welts. With a desperate heave, we managed to pry the creatures off her, their mangled bodies littering the forest floor. Ignoring the searing pain in her arm, Sarah gasped, "Those symbols, they warned of guardians." Suddenly, the metallic tang intensified. Emerging from the depths of the forest, a colossal figure lumbered towards us. It was a monstrous bear, its fur matted and caked in a glistening, metallic substance. Its eyes, devoid of any iris or pupil, glowed with an unnatural red light. Adrenaline surged through me. We bolted for the clearing where we left our backpacks, hoping to find some form of defense. The monstrous bear, surprisingly agile for its size, gave chase. Just as it reached the clearing, Mark stumbled, his ankle twisting at an unnatural angle. A horrifying realization dawned on me. The symbols were a trap, and the metallic substance was what drew the creature. With a guttural roar, the bear lunged at Mark. Time seemed to slow down. In a desperate bid to save him, I grabbed a heavy rock and slammed it against the creature's head. It recoiled momentarily, stunned but not deterred. Just as it lunged again, a blood-curdling shriek echoed through the woods. Turning in horror, I saw Sarah standing before the colossal pine, bathed in an unnatural green light emanating from the carved symbols. Her exposed arm, covered in the metallic substance, seemed to be pulsing with the same light. She screamed again, a sound that defied description, and then, in a flash of blinding light, she vanished. The green light subsided, the clearing plunged back into darkness. The monstrous bear, confused and disoriented, lumbered away into the woods. Mark, his face etched with grief and horror, could only whisper, "Sarah?" Tears streamed down my face as I rushed to where Sarah stood moments ago. There was nothing, no trace of her, not even a single scream or a twig snapped in her wake. Just the silence, heavy and suffocating, as if the forest itself had swallowed her whole. We managed to get Mark back to the trailhead, where a ranger helped us contact emergency services. They found no sign of Sarah, no evidence of a struggle. The search parties combed the area for days, but there was nothing. I was left with a haunting emptiness and an unsettling suspicion. The symbols on the tree, the metallic substance, the way Sarah's arm glowed, it all pointed to something more sinister at work. The Teton Range held a dark secret, a place where the veil between worlds seemed thin, and the guardians of that world were not easily appeased. Back in civilization, the nightmares began. Sarah, her vacant eyes staring back at me, the monstrous bear's red eyes glowing in the darkness. Sleep became a battleground, and the oppressive silence of the Teton Range echoed in my dreams. Mark, consumed by grief and guilt, became a recluse. We were both broken by the experience, forever bound by the chilling memory of what happened in that clearing. Years later, a package arrived on my doorstep. Inside, nestled in shredded packing peanuts, lay a single, misshapen pine cone. It was unnatural black, devoid of any green or brown, and its surface pulsed with a faint, unsettling light. A wave of nausea washed over me as I recognized the metallic scent clinging to it, the same scent that clung to the monstrous bear and the clearing in the Teton Range. Panic clawed at me. This wasn't a memento, it was a warning. The entity that took Sarah wasn't dormant, it was reaching out. In a desperate attempt to understand what happened, I pored over Sarah's research notes, a forgotten hobby she'd indulged in before the trip. Buried amongst her detailed sketches of wildflowers and animal tracks were several pages filled with unsettling scribbles and cryptic symbols. One symbol, crudely drawn and circled, matched the ones carved into the ancient pine. Below it, in a frantic scrawl, Sarah had written, "Offering, not appeasement." A chilling realization dawned on me. The symbols weren't a warning, they were a summoning ritual. The metallic substance wasn't a curse, it was a beacon. Sarah hadn't been devoured by the monstrous bear. She had been claimed by the entity it served. Fueled by a desperate need for closure and a sliver of hope for finding Sarah, I contacted a retired park ranger, a man known for his knowledge of the Teton Range's lesser-known lore. He listened to my story with a mixture of skepticism and grim understanding. He confirmed the existence of ancient legends about malevolent spirits trapped within the mountains, appeased by offerings of metal and blood sacrifices. There was a way to sever the connection, he explained, a counter-ritual hidden deep within a forgotten journal kept by the original park rangers. But it was a dangerous path, requiring venturing back into the heart of the Teton Range, to the clearing where the ancient pines stood. The decision was agonizing, but the thought of Sarah, trapped in some unimaginable realm, fueled my resolve. Packing my gear, I said goodbye to Mark, his haunted eyes reflecting a pain I understood all too well. Returning to the Teton Range sent shivers down my spine. The familiar, majestic peaks now seemed sinister, cloaked in an unnatural silence. Reaching the clearing, the monstrous pine stood sentinel, its grotesque carvings pulsing with an eerie light. Following the park ranger's instructions, I performed the counter-ritual, chanting ancient words in a tongue that felt alien on my tongue. The air crackled with unseen energy, and the clearing pulsed with a malevolent light. Suddenly, the earth rumbled, and from the base of the ancient pine, a dark fissure opened. From its depths, a monstrous entity emerged, its form a grotesque amalgamation of bear and shadow. It shrieked in a voice that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality, promising vengeance for the broken pact. Terror threatened to consume me, but the image of Sarah spurred me forward. With a final, desperate roar, I completed the ritual. A blinding light engulfed the clearing, and the entity, howling in rage, was banished back into the fissure. The earth trembled once more, then silence returned, heavy and suffocating. There was no sign of Sarah, no triumphant return, no echo of her screams. Just an empty clearing and the faint scent of pine lingering in the air. Leaving the Teton Range behind, I knew my journey wasn't over. The entity may be banished, but the scars remained on the landscape, on my soul, and on the life I once knew. The whispers of the Teton Range may have been silenced for now, but somewhere deep within its heart, a darkness lingers, a chilling reminder of the price of disturbing ancient secrets.